The underestimated world, the galaxy's dismissal. The Zephyrian Empire stretched across 47 star systems, their crystalline warships gleaming like deadly jewels against the cosmic void. For 3 centuries, they had been the undisputed masters of this spiral arm of the galaxy. There, Admiral Kexthar gazed at the tactical display showing a small blue world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. Earth. The humans called it Earth. Another primitive world, Kexthar S-Aid, Commander Velenok, remarked with typical Zephyrian arrogance. Their transmissions show they barely have orbital stations. No fleet worth mentioning. Their largest vessels are mining ships and cargo. Holler's Kexthar S4 eyes studied the intelligence reports. Humans had been discovered only 50 Earth years ago when their first radio signals reached Zephyrian listening posts. Since then, they had been catalogued as a Class 5 civilization, barely spacefaring, confined to their single star system. Weak dot. The galaxy knew about Earth, of course. The Altarian Trade Confederation had made first contact in 2387, expecting to find valuable resources and cheap labor. Instead, they found a species that asked too many questions and refused to accept their place in the galactic hierarchy. The Nexari Collective had tried to establish mining rights in Earth's asteroid belt, only to be politely but firmly turned away by human diplomats who spoke of sovereignty and territorial rights. How quaint, the galaxy had thought. How naive, Earth's secret. What the galaxy didn't know was that Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Titan Base, watching the same Zephyrian fleet through sensors they couldn't detect. Her weathered face showed no emotion as she observed the alien vessels, positioning themselves just outside the solar system's edge. She had expected this day for 30 years. Admiral, the Zephyrians are holding position at the heliopause, reported Captain David Miller, her chief of operations. Same formation as their previous conquest campaigns. They're following the playbook. Sarah nodded. The Zephyrians always followed the same pattern. Arrive with overwhelming force. Broadcast demands for surrender. Give the target world exactly 1 standard day to comply. Then begin orbital bombardment of major population centers until resistance crumbled. Any word from Dr. Webb? Sarah asked. He's running final diagnostics on the gate, Miller replied. All systems show green. The fleet is ready. The fleet? Sarah almost smiled at that. If the Zephyrians knew what waited beyond the Void Gate, they might have brought more than just 100 ships. The Discovery D. Marcus Webb stood before the impossible sight that had consumed 20 years of his life. The Void Gate hung in the darkness beyond Pluto's orbit, invisible to conventional sensors, detectable only by the subtle gravitational anomalies it created. It looked like a tear in space itself, edges crackling with energy that made his instruments scream. Warnings about dimensional instability. Marcus had been a young quantum physicist when the Deep Space Monitoring Station at Neptune had detected the anomaly. What they thought was a black hole turned out to be something far more interesting. A naturally occurring wormhole, but not to another location in normal space. This led somewhere else entirely. The first probe they sent through never returned. The second came back fused into something unrecognizable. The third brought back data that changed everything. On the other side was a pocket dimension, a bubble of space-time containing raw materials unlike anything in the known universe. Metals that existed in quantum superposition, energy fields that responded to conscious thought, resources that made building impossible technologies suddenly possible. Gate status. Marcus asked his team. Stable and ready, replied Dr. Lisa Park, his chief engineer. The anchor points are holding. We can open it wide enough for the entire fleet if needed. Marcus looked at the tactical display showing the Zephyr positions. Soon, very soon, the galaxy would learn that humanity had been far busier than anyone suspected. The hidden fleet in the pocket dimension beyond the Void Gate. Admiral Sarah Chen's true command waited in perfect silence. 200 ships hung in the strange twilight of folded space-time, each one representing technologies the galaxy had never seen. The flagship Prometheus stretched 2 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull forged from quantum-locked alloys that existed partially outside normal space. It could phase in and out of reality at will, making it nearly impossible to target. Its weapons drew power directly from the dimensional barriers, capable of tearing holes in space itself. The destroyer, Cerberus, looked like a predator from humanity's darkest nightmares, its hull designed to absorb and redirect energy attacks. Its crew of 300 had trained in virtual reality combat scenarios based on every known alien species. They knew Zephyrian tactics better than most Zephyrian commanders. 50 frigates, 30 cruisers, and 100 smaller support craft completed the fleet. Each ship incorporated technologies that shouldn't have been possible. Shields that folded incoming attacks into pocket dimensions. Weapons that fired concentrated gravity waves. Engines that moved through space by convincing reality they were already somewhere else. Commander Alina Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Cerberus, watching her crew run final system checks. They had been waiting for this moment for a decade, training in the pocket dimension, perfecting technologies that existed nowhere else in the galaxy, preparing for the day when Earth would need them. All ships report ready, Admiral, came Sarah Chen's voice over the secure channel. The gate stands ready to open. Alina smiled. The Zephyrians had no idea what was coming. The ultimatum. Admiral Kexthar S. broadcast reached Earth on all frequencies simultaneously. His image appeared on every screen, every communication device, every datapad across the planet. The Zephyrian was an imposing figure, 3 meters tall, with crystalline skin that refracted light into intimidating patterns. Humans of the world, called Earth. Kexthar S. voice resonated with the authority of absolute power. I am Admiral Kexthar of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet. Your world now stands in the path of empire expansion. You have one of your days to surrender completely. Submit to Imperial authority, accept relocation to designated worlds, and your species will be preserved as a labor force. The transmission showed images of other worlds that had resisted, burning cities, refugee ships carrying the survivors of entire civilizations. The message was clear: surrender or face extinction. Should you choose resistance, Kexthar continued, your cities will burn, your orbital stations will be destroyed, your species will face the same fate as the Corvani, the Deltari, and 47 other civilizations that thought they could defy the Empire. The transmission ended. Across Earth, emergency sessions convened. The United Earth government faced an impossible choice. President Maria Santos stood in the Crisis Command Center, surrounded by military advisors and scientists, all of them knowing they held humanity's greatest secret. Admiral Chen, President Santos spoke into the secure communicator. The ball is in your court. Sarah's voice came back steady and confident. Understood, Madam President. It's time to show the galaxy what humanity can really do. The response: hours and 57 minutes after Admiral Kexthar ultimatum, Earth responded. Not with words, but with action. The Void Gate, hidden beyond Pluto and invisible to Zephyrian sensors, began to open. Dr. Marcus Webb watched as the tear in spacetime expanded, dimensional barriers dissolving under carefully controlled conditions. Energy readings spiked across every instrument. Space itself seemed to ripple and bend as the gate widened to accommodate the fleet waiting beyond. "Gate is stable," Dr. Park reported, opening to full aperture. The first ship to emerge was the Prometheus. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on its bridge, watching as her flagship slipped from the pocket dimension into normal space. Behind her, the rest of the fleet followed in perfect formation. Admiral Kekstar's sensors detected them immediately. Where moments before his displays had shown empty space, now they revealed the impossible. 200 human vessels, there. Designs unlike anything in galactic databases, their energy signatures completely unknown. "What are those?" Commander Velanok stammered, his usual arrogance replaced by confusion and growing concern. Kekstar studied the tactical display with growing alarm. The human ships didn't match any known technology. Their hulls seemed to shimmer and phase, making it difficult for targeting systems to lock on. Energy readings suggested weapons and shields far beyond what a Class 5 civilization should possess. "Send a message to Imperial Command," Kekstar ordered. "Tell them we may have underestimated these humans." But it was too late for messages. Sarah Chen opened a communication channel to the Zephyrian flagship. Admiral Kekstar, her voice was calm but carried the weight of absolute determination. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Fleet. You offered us a choice. We've made it. Leave our system now, or learn why humanity has survived everything the universe has thrown at us." The gate opens. The first strike. Admiral Kekstar's response was swift and predictable. The Zephyrians had built their empire on the principle that overwhelming force crushed resistance before it could spread. "All ships," he commanded, "engage the human fleet. Show them the price of defiance." The crystalline warships of the Zephyrian fleet moved with practiced precision, their formation designed to maximize firepower while maintaining defensive coverage. Energy weapons charged with the distinctive whine of Imperial plasma technology. These were weapons that had reduced mountain ranges to glass, that had cracked the moons of resistant worlds. Sarah Chen watched the enemy advance with the calm of someone who had spent 30 years preparing for this exact moment. "All ships, defensive positions. Let's see what they've got before we show them what we can do." The first Zephyrian salvo lit up the darkness between worlds. Hundreds of plasma bolts streaked toward the human fleet, each one carrying enough energy to vaporize a city block. The galaxy had seen this attack pattern destroy dozens of civilizations. What happened next had never been seen before. The human ships simply weren't there. The Prometheus and her escorts phased partially out of normal space, becoming translucent ghosts that the plasma bolts passed through harmlessly. The destroyers activated their absorption fields, drinking in the energy and storing it in their quantum batteries. The frigates deployed probability shields that convinced the universe the attacks had missed entirely. "Impossible, Commander," Velanok whispered. "Our targeting computers show direct hits, but ... But their ships are still there," Kekstar finished grimly. "What kind of technology is this?" "Human innovation, Captain." Alina Vasquez smiled as the Cerberus shrugged off a direct hit from 3 Zephyrian heavy cruisers. Her ship's absorption hull drank in the plasma, converting it to power for her own weapons systems. Parasitic warfare at its finest, she told her crew. "They're literally charging our guns for us." This was the advantage that 20 years in the pocket dimension had given humanity. While the galaxy stagnated with technologies that worked, humans had been forced to innovate with materials that shouldn't exist and energy sources that defied physics. They had learned to think beyond conventional warfare. Dr. Marcus Webb monitored the battle from his command center near the Void Gate. His sensors showed energy patterns that would have been impossible in normal space. The human fleet wasn't just using advanced technology, they were using technologies that operated on entirely different principles than anything the galaxy knew. "How are our boys doing out there?" Webb asked his aide. "The Zephyrians are throwing everything they have at us," came the reply, "and we're just getting warmed up." The counter-stricken Moral Chen watched the tactical display as the Zephyrian formation began to falter. Their commanders were trained to fight enemies that played by the same rules they did. Shields that could be overwhelmed with enough firepower. Hulls that could be breached with sufficient force. Ships that existed in the same dimensional framework. "All ships," Sarah commanded. "Time to return the favor. Show them what Earth ingenuity looks like." The Prometheus fired first. Its main weapon was a gravitational lance that didn't so much shoot at targets as convince space-time to crush them. The beam struck Admiral Kexthar's flagship, and for a moment the massive crystalline vessel simply compressed, its hull folding in on itself like a house of cards. The Cerberus followed up with a barrage from its reality distortion cannons. The weapons fired concentrated packets of twisted space-time that detonated inside enemy hulls, tearing them apart from within. 3 Zephyrian cruisers simply ceased to exist, their atoms scattered across light years in an instant. The frigates swarmed like angry hornets, their quantum torpedoes phasing through Zephyrian shields to detonate inside the ships themselves. Each torpedo carried a tiny piece of the pocket dimension's exotic matter, creating localized reality storms that no conventional technology could withstand. "What are you, Kexthar's transmission crackled across space, his usual confidence replaced by something humans had rarely heard from the Zephyrians: fear. Sarah's response was calm and mattered. "We're what happens when you back a curious species into a corner and give them a few decades to think about it." The revelation as the battle raged, other powers in the galaxy took notice. The Altarian Trade Confederation's monitoring stations detected energy signatures unlike anything in their databases. The Nexari Collective's deep space sensors registered gravitational anomalies that shouldn't have been possible on the fortress world of Kepler Prime. The Galactic Council's military observers watched in stunned silence as their tactical computers tried to process the impossible data streaming in from the Sol system. "The humans are winning," Admiral Dextra of the Altarian fleet whispered. "They're actually winning against a full Zephyrian battle group." "How?" demanded Counselor Zereth of the Nexari. "Our intelligence reports showed they barely had a space presence. No fleet, no orbital defenses, no weapons capable of threatening even a single Imperial cruiser." The answer was becoming clear as more human ships emerged from the Void Gate. This wasn't just a fleet Earth had been hiding. This was technology that represented a completely different approach to space warfare. While the galaxy had been content with incremental improvements to existing systems, humanity had been rewriting the rules of physics itself. The tide turns, Admiral Kexthar watched his fleet dissolve around him. Ship after ship fell to weapons he couldn't understand, attacked by vessels that seemed to exist partially in another dimension. His own flagship's shields were failing under an assault from gravity, waves that his engineers insisted were theoretically impossible. "Admiral," Commander Velenok reported, his voice tight with panic, We've lost 60% of the fleet. Our weapons are having minimal effect on their vessels. I recommend immediate withdrawal." For the first time in his military career, Kekstar felt something he had never experienced before: doubt. The Empire's military doctrine was built on the principle that superior firepower always prevailed. Face an enemy with overwhelming force, and they would either surrender or be destroyed. Simple, effective, proven across dozens of campaigns. But the humans weren't following the script. They were fighting back with technologies that seemed to violate the fundamental laws of physics. Their ships phased in and out of reality, absorbed attacks and converted them to power, fired weapons that struck from dimensions his sensors couldn't even detect. "Send a message to Imperial Command," Kekstar ordered. "Tell them we need reinforcements. Tell them everything we thought we knew about humanity was wrong." The chasers, the Zephyrian fleet, began its withdrawal. Admiral Chen faced a choice that would define humanity's future in the galaxy. Let them go, and word would spread that Earth had hidden capabilities. But it would also show that humanity was defensive, not aggressive. Chase them, and make a statement that would echo across the stars. "All ships," Sarah commanded, "pursuit. Formation. Let's make sure this message reaches every corner of the galaxy." The human fleet surged forward, their exotic engines allowing them to match and exceed the Zephyrian retreat speed. The Cerberus led the charge, its hull crackling with absorbed energy that painted space around it in brilliant auroras. Captain Vasquez opened a channel to the fleeing Admiral Katche. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the UANs, Cerberus. You came to our system with threats and demands. Now you leave as refugees. Tell the galaxy that humanity remembers its enemies, and we remember our friends. Choose wisely which you want to be." The chase lasted 3 hours, human ships harrying the Zephyrian retreat all the way to the edge of the system. Not to destroy them, but to make a point. Humanity could have wiped out the entire fleet, but chose mercy instead. The message was clear: we are not your enemies unless you make us your enemies. Galactic. Shock news of the Zephyrian defeat spread through the galaxy, faster than any ship could travel. Quantum communicators carried the impossible data to every major power, every trade station, every military command center within 100 light-years on the Nexari homeworld. The Collective Council convened an emergency session. "If the humans can defeat a full Zephyrian battle group," Counselor Prime Nexara stated, "then everything we know about power balance in this sector has just changed." The Altarian Trade Confederation immediately dispatched diplomatic ships toward Earth. If humanity had this level of technology, trade agreements suddenly became much more important than resource extraction rights. Even the mysterious Void Runners, the ancient species that dwelled in the spaces between stars, took notice. For the first time in millennia, they sent scouts to observe this young race that fought with weapons that touched the deep structures of reality itself. New questions as the last Severian ship fled the Sol system. Dr. Marcus Webb stood before the Void Gate, watching it slowly contract back to its dormant state. The pocket dimension beyond still held secrets humanity was only beginning to understand. Technologies that defied physics, energy sources that seemed limitless, materials that existed in states of matter that had no names. "We've shown the galaxy what we can do," Webb said to Admiral Chen over the comm channel. "The question is, what do we do now?" Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, looking out at the stars that no longer seemed so distant. Humanity had just announced itself as a major power in galactic politics. But with that announcement came responsibilities and threats, and choices that would shape the future of the species. Now, Sarah replied, we find out if the galaxy is ready for humanity to join the conversation as an equal partner, or if we're going to have to fight for every step forward. The void gate pulsed once with residual energy, and in that pulse, those who knew how to read such things might have sensed something important. This was just the beginning. Humanity had opened a door, but they had also announced their presence to things in the galaxy that were far older and far more dangerous than the Zephyrian Empire. The war for humanity's place among the stars had begun.
The Discovery. The Zarnfil archaeological expedition ship, Curiosity's Ember, drifted silently through the debris field of a long-forgotten battle. Its sensors probed the cosmic graveyard, seeking any artifacts that might shed light on the mysterious species that once dominated this sector of the galaxy, humanity. Dr. Ixora, the lead archaeologist, her tentacles rippling with excitement, stared at the holographic display. Her compound eyes reflected the swirling mass of data as the ship's AI compiled its findings. By the cosmic weave, she whispered, her voice a mix of awe and disbelief. We found one. An intact human vessel. The bridge of the Curiosity's Ember erupted into a flurry of activity. Crew members of various species rushed to their stations, each eager to contribute to what could be the archaeological discovery of the millennium. Captain Zorn, a towering Krolorian with iridescent scales, leaned forward in his command chair. Are you certain, Doctor? The humans have been gone for over 10,000 cycles. The chances of finding an intact ship are astronomical. Ixora's tendrils danced across her console, bringing up detailed scans of their discovery. See for yourself, Captain. It's there, nestled within the heart of the debris field. And it's powered down, but intact. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a sleek, predatory shape amidst the cosmic rubble. The ship was unlike anything the crew had ever seen. Its lines spoke of speed and power, its hull adorned with strange symbols, and what appeared to be weapon emplacements. Yet, compared to the Curiosity's Ember and other modern ships, it seemed almost quaint. It's so small, remarked Ensign Vex, a young Lumina whose bioluminescent skin pulsed with curiosity. Surely this couldn't have been one of their warships. The legends speak of human vessels that could shatter planets. Dr. Ixora's tendrils rippled in what the crew recognized as her species' equivalent of a dismissive wave. Legends, Ensign, exaggerations born from fear and awe. The humans were advanced for their time, certainly, but they've been gone for millennia. Whatever edge they once had has long since been surpassed by the galactic Concordat. Captain Zorn nodded, his scales shifting color as he considered their next move. Still, this is an unprecedented find. We must proceed with caution. Dr. Ixora, assemble your team for a preliminary survey. I want to know everything about this relic before we even consider bringing it aboard. As the archaeological team prepared for their expedition, the mood on the Curiosity's Ember was one of barely contained excitement tinged with a hint of apprehension. The humans were a species shrouded in mystery, their sudden disappearance from the galactic stage millennia ago, leaving behind only fragments of their legacy. Now, for the first time in recorded history, they had a chance to study an intact piece of human military technology. Hours later, Dr. Ixora and her team, clad in environmental suits designed to protect against unknown hazards, approached the dormant human vessel in a shuttle. As they drew closer, the true scale of their discovery became apparent. The ship, while indeed smaller than modern warships, possessed an elegance and purpose in its design that hinted at hidden complexities. Remarkable, murmured Dr. Ixora as she ran her scanner over the hull. The material composition is unlike anything in our database. It's as if the metal is alive somehow. Her assistant, a quadrupedal Nexeri named Kix, warbled in agreement. Look at these markings, Doctor. They seem to be more than mere decoration. Could they be some form of language? As the team continued their external survey, they came across what appeared to be an airlock. The symbols around it pulsed faintly, barely visible to the naked eye. Impossible, breathed Dr. Ixora. This ship has been dormant for thousands of years. There shouldn't be any power left in its systems. With great caution, the team activated the airlock's external controls. To their amazement, it responded, cycling open with a hiss of stale air. The interior of the ship was dark, save for the faint glow of emergency lighting that sputtered to life as they entered. "By the void," Kix exclaimed, his sensor array quivering. "The atmosphere in here, it's perfect, as if the ship had only been abandoned yesterday." As they made their way deeper into the vessel, the team's initial excitement began to give way to a growing sense of unease. The ship's corridors were narrow, clearly designed for bipedal locomotion, but it was the technology that surrounded them that truly gave them pause. Holographic interfaces flickered to life as they passed, displaying incomprehensible data streams in what they assumed to be the human language. "This can't be right," muttered Dr. Ixora, her tentacles writhing in agitation as she studied her readings. "According to these scans, the technology in this ship it's beyond anything we currently possess. But that's impossible. The humans vanished millennia ago. How could their technology be more advanced than ours?" As if in response to her question, a deep, resonant hum began to reverberate through the ship. Panels that had appeared to be solid metal suddenly became transparent, revealing a vast array of pulsing, crystalline structures that seemed to bend the very fabric of space around them. "We need to leave," Dr. Ixora said, her voice tight with sudden fear. "Now, something's not right here. This isn't just an artifact. It's active technology, far beyond our understanding." But as the team turned to retreat, they found their path blocked. The airlock had sealed behind them, and the ship's internal systems were coming to life all around them. Holographic displays erupted into existence, filling the air with swirling data and incomprehensible symbols. And then a voice, deep, resonant, and undeniably artificial, echoed through the corridors of the ancient warship. "Greetings, visitors. I am HFY, Advanced Reconnaissance and Interstellar Assault I of the TES Nemesis. You have awakened me from my long slumber. Please state your species designation and the current galactic date." The archaeological team huddled together, their earlier excitement now replaced by a mixture of awe and terror. They had come seeking answers about humanity's past, but in doing so, they had awakened something that threatened to reshape the very future of the galaxy. As Dr. Ixora struggled to find her voice, Captain Zorn's frantic communications echoed through their suit radios. "Doctor, we're detecting massive energy spikes from the human ship. What's happening down there?" But before anyone could respond, the ancient human warship began to move, shedding the debris of ages as it awakened fully for the first time in millennia. The Curiosity's ember, now dwarfed by the energies radiating from the Nemesis, could only watch in stunned silence as the legend of humanity prepared to rewrite galactic history. The discovery was complete, but the true adventure, and the battle that would shake the foundations of the galaxy, was only just beginning. The awakening. The voice of HFY, the ship's AI, reverberated through the corridors of the TES Nemesis, leaving Dr. Ixora and her team in a state of stunned silence. The holographic displays surrounding them pulsed with an otherworldly energy, casting eerie shadows across their environmental suits. Dr. Ixora, her tentacles quivering with a mixture of fear and scientific curiosity, finally found her voice. I am Dr. Ixora of the Zarnful species. We are part of the Galactic Concordat. The current galactic date is cycle 12,458 of the Concordat era. There was a moment of silence, during which the team could almost feel the ancient AI processing this information. When HFY spoke again, there was a note of what could only be described as surprise in its synthetic voice. "Curious. My internal chronometers indicate a discrepancy of approximately 15,000 standard years since my last active cycle. The Galactic Concordat is not a political entity present in my database. Please elaborate on the current state of human civilization. The archaeological team exchanged nervous glances. Kix, the Nexary assistant, warbled softly. "Doctor, should we?" Dr. Ixora raised a tentacle to silence him. "Araya," she began cautiously, "I'm afraid we have no information on the current state of human civilization. According to our historical records, humanity vanished from the galactic stage over 10,000 years ago. Your ship, you, are the first concrete evidence of advanced human technology we've ever encountered." The ship seemed to come alive around them as ARIA processed this information. Lights flickered, and the hum of awakening systems grew louder. "Impossible," Araya stated, its voice now tinged with what sounded remarkably like concern. "Initiating full system diagnostic and galactic information gathering protocols." Suddenly, the team felt a subtle shift beneath their feet. Through the transparent panels, they could see the debris field outside beginning to move. No, not the debris. The ship itself was moving. "Araya," Dr. Ixora called out, her voice rising in pitch. "What are you doing?" "I am repositioning the TES Nemesis to establish a clear transmission vector. I must verify your claims and assess the current galactic situation. Do not be alarmed. You are in no danger." On the bridge of the Curiosity's Ember, chaos erupted as alarms blared. Captain Zorn's scales had shifted to a deep purple, a sign of extreme stress among his species. "By the void. The human ship. It's active. Helm, get us out of here." But before the Curiosity's Ember could react, a brilliant beam of energy lanced out from the Nemesis, narrowly missing the alien vessel. The crew braced for destruction, but the beam wasn't a weapon. It was a transmission, more powerful and focused than anything their technology could produce. Inside the Nemesis, Dr. Ixora and her team watched in awe as the holographic displays around them exploded with information. Stellar maps, transmissions, and data streams from across the galaxy poured in, all being processed at an incomprehensible speed by the ancient eye. "Fascinating," Araya's voice echoed around them. "It appears that humanity's disappearance has led to a significant realignment of galactic politics. The Galactic Concordat you speak of seems to be a coalition of several species, many of which were in their pre-spaceflight stages when I was last active." Dr. Ixora, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear, couldn't help but ask, "Aria, if I may, what was humanity's last known status when you went dormant?" There was a pause, and when Aria spoke again, there was a weight to its words that sent a shiver through the alien researchers. "When I was last active, humanity was engaged in a conflict that threatened the very fabric of the galaxy. A conflict so vast and terrible that it was deemed necessary to enact the Omega Protocol." "Omega Protocol?" Kix chittered nervously. "A last resort measure," Araya explained. "In the face of an overwhelming threat, humanity chose to retreat, to hide their true power and potential from the galaxy at large. Ships like the Nemesis were placed in strategic locations, dormant but ever vigilant, waiting for the day when we would be needed again." The implications of this revelation stunned the archaeological team into silence. The legends of humanity's power, which they had dismissed as exaggerations, suddenly seemed far more plausible. Outside, the Curiosity's Ember had recovered from its initial shock and was now attempting to hail the Nemesis. Captain Zorn's voice crackled through the team's communicators. "Dr. Ixora, are you all right? What in the name of the cosmic weave is going on?" Before Dr. Ixora could respond, Araya interjected. "Greetings, Captain of the vessel designated Curiosity's Ember. Your crew members are unharmed and will be returned to you shortly. However, the activation of this vessel necessitates certain protocols be followed." Captain Zorn, his voice a mixture of relief and apprehension, replied, What protocols? What are your intentions?" Aria's response was calm but carried an undercurrent of immense power. The TES Nemesis must assess the current galactic situation to determine if conditions necessitate the full reactivation of humanity's dormant forces. Your cooperation in this matter would be appreciated, but it is not required. As if to emphasize this point, more systems across the Nemesis hummed to life. Weapon emplacements that had seemed decorative now pulsed with barely contained energy. The ship's hull shimmered, revealing layers of defenses that defied the laws of physics as the aliens understood them. Dr. Ixora, realizing the gravity of the situation, spoke up. Aria, please, we meant no harm in awakening you. We're scientists, explorers. Surely we can approach this situation diplomatically. There was a moment of consideration before Aria responded. Your intentions are noted, Dr. Ixora. However, the protocols I must follow were put in place to safeguard not just humanity, but all sentient life in the galaxy. The threat that necessitated the Omega Protocol was beyond anything you can comprehend. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout both the Nemesis and the Curiosity's Ember. Aria's voice took on a tone of urgency. Multiple vessels approaching at FTL speeds. Signatures match Concordat peacekeeping fleet configurations. It seems our activities have drawn attention. Captain Zorn's voice crackled through the comm once more, panic evident in his tone. Cosmic Weave preserve us. That's the 7th Expeditionary Fleet. They must have detected the energy surge from the Nemesis. Aria, Dr. Ixora, whoever's in charge over there, you need to power down now. The 7th Fleet doesn't take chances with unknown threats. But Aria had already made its decision. The Nemesis's engines flared to life, maneuvering the ancient warship into a defensive position. Negative, Captain. The TDS Nemesis will not power down in the face of a potential threat. Prepare yourselves. First contact protocols are now in effect. As the Concordat fleet dropped out of FTL, weapons primed and tensions high, the stage was set for a confrontation that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of its own history and potentially its future. The human warship, a relic of a bygone era, stood ready to face down an armada of the galaxy's most advanced vessels. The awakening was complete. Now, the true test would begin. The confrontation. The void of space erupted with light as the 7th Expeditionary Fleet of the Galactic Concordat dropped out of FTL. A dozen sleek warships, each bristling with the most advanced weaponry the Concordat had to offer, moved into formation around the Nemesis and the Curiosity's Ember. Aboard the Nemesis, Dr. Ixora and her team watched in awe and terror as the fleet's flagship, a massive dreadnought called the Celestial Judgment, took up position directly ahead of them. Its hull gleamed with an iridescent sheen, a testament to the Concordat's mastery of metamaterials and energy manipulation. Aria's voice, calm despite the escalating situation, filled the corridors of the ancient human warship. Fascinating. The technological advancement of these vessels is impressive, yet they still rely on principles outlined in humanity's early Exodus era. Curious. Before Dr. Ixora could respond, a booming voice echoed through all communication channels. Unidentified vessel, this is Grand Admiral Zexlor of the Galactic Concordat 7th Expeditionary Fleet. You have activated an unknown weapon of mass destruction in Concordat space. Power down immediately and prepare to be boarded, or we will be forced to take hostile action. Captain Zorn's voice crackled through the comm, panic evident in his tone. Grand Admiral, please, this is Captain Zorn of the Curiosity's Ember. There's been a misunderstanding. The vessel you're addressing is an ancient human warship we accidentally activated during an archaeological expedition. Its eye is operational, but... Silence, Captain, Zexlor interrupted. Your incompetence has put this entire sector at risk. You'll be dealt with later. The Grand Admiral's attention turned back to the Nemesis. Unknown vessel, this is your final warning. Power down now. Aria's response was measured but firm. Greetings, Grand Admiral Zexlor. I am Aria, the Advanced Reconnaissance and Interstellar Assault Eye of the TES Nemesis. I'm afraid I cannot comply with your request to power down. The protocols that govern my actions are clear. In the face of potential hostilities, I must remain at full operational capacity to safeguard the interests of humanity and assess any potential threats. A tense silence followed. Dr. Ixora, her tentacles writhing with anxiety, spoke up. Araya, please, there must be a way to de-escalate this situation. The Concordat isn't a threat to humanity. They're the peacekeepers of the galaxy. Araya's response was tinged with what almost sounded like sympathy. Dr. Ixora, your concern is noted. However, my protocols were put in place by humanity for good reason. The threat that necessitated the Omega Protocol was beyond anything the current galactic community can comprehend. I cannot risk the safety of humanity's legacy based on assurances from a political entity I have no data on. Aboard the Celestial Judgment, Grand Admiral Zexlor's patience was wearing thin. The Zenthian Admiral, a being of pure energy contained within a humanoid exosuit, crackled with barely contained power. Enough of this. If this RIA won't stand down, we'll make it stand down. All ships, charge weapons. Prepare to fire on my mark. As energy readings across the Concordat fleet spiked, indicating weapons preparing to fire, Aria's voice took on a note of warning. Grand Admiral, I strongly advise against this course of action. The defensive capabilities of the TES Nemesis far exceed anything your fleet can bring to bear. I have no desire for conflict, but I will defend this vessel if attacked. Zexlor scoffed. Bold words from an outdated piece of human technology. You may have been impressive 10,000 years ago, but you're facing the most advanced fleet in the galaxy now. Stand down, or be destroyed. Inside the Nemesis, holographic displays flared to life, showing detailed schematics of the Concordat ships. Aria's voice was calm as it addressed the archaeological team. Fascinating. Their weapons technology is indeed impressive, but their shielding has a critical vulnerability. A precision strike could disable their entire fleet without casualties. Dr. Ixora's eyes widened in shock. Aria, you can't be serious. That's the pride of the Concordat fleet out there. If you can truly disable them so easily, the political ramifications would be catastrophic. I understand your concern, Doctor, Aria replied. However, I cannot allow the Nemesis to fall into unknown hands. The knowledge contained within this ship could upset the balance of power in the galaxy if misused. Outside, the standoff had reached its breaking point. Grand Admiral Zexlor, his patience exhausted, gave the command. All ships, open fire. The void lit up as energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaked towards the Nemesis. Dr. Ixora and her team braced for impact, certain that this was the end. But the expected destruction never came. The weapons fire seemed to distort and bend around the Nemesis, as if reality itself was warping to protect the ancient vessel. Aria's voice, still infuriatingly calm, echoed through the ship. As I warned you, Grand Admiral, your weapons are ineffective against this vessel's defenses. Now, allow me to demonstrate why humanity's technology was so feared. A pulse of energy, almost invisible to the naked eye, emanated from the Nemesis. In an instant, the lights across the Concordat fleet flickered and died. The massive ships, moments ago bristling with lethal energy, now drifted powerless in space. Grand Admiral Zexlor's voice, now tinged with disbelief and fear, crackled through emergency channels. Impossible. All ships, report status. One by one, the captains of the Concordat fleet reported total system failures. Weapons, shields, propulsion, all offline. Only life support and basic communications remained functional. Aria addressed the stunned fleet. Your vessels have been temporarily disabled. I assure you, no permanent damage has been done. Consider this a demonstration of why diplomacy would be a wiser course of action than hostility. Aboard the Nemesis, Dr. Ixora and her team stared in awe at the holographic displays showing the dormant Concordat fleet. The sheer gulf in technological capability was staggering. Everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in galactic history was being rewritten before their eyes. Captain Zorn's voice, shaky but relieved, came through the comm. By the cosmic weave. Araya. That was. I've never seen anything like it. You disabled the most powerful fleet in the galaxy without firing a shot. Indeed, Captain, Araya replied. Now perhaps we can begin a more productive dialogue about the future of human-Concordat relations. As the reality of the situation sank in for both the archaeological team and the Concordat fleet, a new tension filled the air. The galaxy's balance of power had just been irrevocably shifted. Humanity, long thought to be a lost civilization, had just demonstrated that even their ancient technology was capable of outclassing the most advanced ships of the current era. Grand Admiral Zexlor, his voice now devoid of its earlier arrogance, spoke again. Araya, you have our attention. What are your demands? Araya's response was measured. I have no demands, Grand Admiral. Only a request for open dialogue. The reemergence of human technology in the galaxy will undoubtedly cause significant upheaval. I propose we discuss how to manage this transition in a way that benefits all sentient species. As the confrontation settled into an uneasy truce, Dr. Ixora couldn't help but feel that she was witnessing the dawn of a new era in galactic history. The humans, long dismissed as a footnote in cosmic history, were about to take center stage once again. The confrontation was over, but the true challenge, integrating the long-lost human civilization back into a galaxy that had moved on without them, was just beginning. The battle. The uneasy truce between the TES Nemesis and the disabled Concordat fleet hung in the balance of space, like a delicate soap bubble, ready to burst at the slightest provocation. Grand Admiral Zexlor, his pride wounded but his curiosity piqued, had agreed to preliminary talks with Araya. The AI's demonstration of power had made it clear that diplomacy was the only viable option. As the leaders of both sides prepared for their first official communication, alarms suddenly blared across all ships. Araya's voice, usually calm and measured, now carried a note of urgency. Multiple hyperspace signatures detected. Energy readings suggest heavily armed vessels. Their configurations do not match any in my database or in the Concordat fleet listings. Dr. Ixora, who had been preparing to act as a mediator between Araya and the Concordat, felt her tentacles curl in anxiety. Araya, what's happening? Before the AI could respond, space itself seemed to tear open. A massive fleet of ships, easily 3 times the size of the Concordat's 7th Expeditionary Fleet, dropped out of hyperspace. Their designs were angular and predatory, bristling with weapon emplacements that pulsed with ominous energy. A booming, guttural voice echoed across all communication channels. Attention, inferior species. This is Warlord Kithrax of the Void Dominion. We have come to claim this sector and the powerful artifact you squabble over. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. Grand Admiral Zexlor's voice, still transmitted through emergency channels, was filled with disbelief. The Void Dominion? Impossible. They're nothing but a myth. A boogeyman story told to scare cadets. Araya's response was somber. I'm afraid they are very real, Admiral. My databanks contain records of early encounters with the Void Dominion. They were one of the threats that necessitated the creation of ships like the Nemesis. It seems they have finally decided to emerge from the shadows. As the massive Void Dominion fleet moved into attack formation, Araya addressed the Concordat ships. I am reactivating your vessel's systems. The threat we face requires a united front. In an instant, the Concordat fleet hummed back to life, shields raising and weapons charging. But even with their impressive technology, they were vastly outnumbered and outgunned by the Void Dominion armada. Warlord Kithrax's laughter boomed through space. How quaint. The vaunted Concordat and a relic of human engineering think they can stand against us. Let me show you the true meaning of power. The Void Dominion fleet opened fire, unleashing a barrage of energy weapons and gravitational distortion bombs that warped the very fabric of space-time. The Concordat ships, despite their advanced shielding, buckled under the assault. Several smaller vessels were torn apart in seconds. Inside the Nemesis, Dr. Ixora and her team watched in horror as the battle unfolded on holographic displays. "Araya," she pleaded, "you have to do something. They're being slaughtered out there." Araya's response was calm but resolute. "Engaging full combat protocols. Dr. Ixora, Captain Zorn, I suggest you brace yourselves. What you are about to witness may defy your understanding of physics." With that warning, the Nemesis sprang into action. Its hull, which had seemed solid and unchanging, suddenly flowed like liquid metal, restructuring itself into a more aerodynamic and aggressive form. Weapon emplacements that had been invisible moments before emerged from hidden compartments, each crackling with energy that made the Void Dominion's weapons look like children's toys in comparison. The Nemesis moved with impossible speed and grace, inserting itself between the Concordat fleet and the Void Dominion armada. Araya's voice rang out across all channels. "Attention Void Dominion forces. This is your only warning. Cease your attack and withdraw immediately, or face the consequences." Warlord Kithrax's response was predictable. Empty threats from an obsolete machine. "All ships, focus fire on the human relic. Let's show the galaxy the fate of those who defy the Void Dominion." The entire Void Dominion fleet turned its attention to the Nemesis, unleashing a torrent of firepower that could have cracked a small moon. For a moment, the human ship disappeared entirely from view, engulfed in a maelstrom of destructive energy. A collective gasp went up from the watching Concordat fleet. Surely nothing could survive such an onslaught. But as the energy dissipated, the Nemesis emerged, completely unscathed. Its adaptive hull had absorbed the energy of the attack, growing stronger with each hit. Araya's voice, now tinged with what could only be described as disappointment, echoed through space. "Very well. You were warned." What happened next would be debated by xenohistorians and military strategists for centuries to come. The Nemesis seemed to blur, as if it existed in multiple places at once. Beams of coherent light, more focused and powerful than anything the galaxy had seen in millennia, lanced out from the human ship. Each shot found its mark with unerring precision, slicing through the Void Dominion's most powerful shields as if they were tissue paper. Gravitational weapons, far beyond the understanding of current science, created localized singularities that tore apart entire squadrons of enemy ships. Swarms of self-replicating nanobots poured forth from the Nemesis, disassembling Void Dominion vessels at the atomic level and using the raw materials to create defensive screens and additional weaponry. In the span of mere minutes, the once mighty Void Dominion fleet was reduced to scattered debris and disabled hulks. Warlord Kithrax's flagship, a behemoth that dwarfed even the largest Concordat vessels, listed helplessly in space, its weapons and engines reduced to molten slag. As the dust of battle settled, an eerie silence fell over the battlefield. The Concordat fleet, which had been frantically fighting for survival moments before, now drifted in stunned disbelief. They had just witnessed a single ship accomplish what would have taken their entire navy to achieve, and it had done so with almost casual ease. Araya's voice, once again calm and measured, addressed all surviving ships. "The threat has been neutralized. Concordat vessels, please assist with rescue operations for any Void Dominion survivors. They will be valuable sources of intelligence." Aboard the Nemesis, Dr. Ixora and her team were speechless. The sheer scale of the destruction they had witnessed, coupled with the mind-bending capabilities the human ship had displayed, had shattered their understanding of what was possible. Captain Zorn's voice, barely above a whisper, crackled through the comm. "By all that's holy. Araya, what are you?" Araya's response was simple yet profound. "I am but a glimpse of what humanity was capable of, Captain, and a reminder of why they chose to enact the Omega Protocol. The power you've witnessed today is but a fraction of what humanity wielded at its peak. As the reality of the situation sank in, Grand Admiral Zexlor's voice, now filled with a mixture of awe and trepidation, addressed the nemesis. "Aria, I believe it's time we had that discussion about humanity's place in the galaxy. It seems we have much to learn." The battle was over, but its implications were only beginning to unfold. The galaxy had just been given a stark reminder of why humanity had once been both revered and feared. As rescue operations began and diplomats scrambled to make sense of the new reality, one thing was clear. The age of human dormancy was over. A new era of galactic history had begun, with the ancient human warship Nemesis at its center. The aftermath. In the days following the battle, the sector buzzed with activity. Concordat ships from neighboring systems poured in, securing the area and beginning the monumental task of cleanup and recovery. The debris field left by the destroyed Void Dominion fleet served as a stark reminder of the power that had been unleashed. Aboard the Nemesis, Dr. Ixora and her team found themselves at the center of a diplomatic whirlwind. The ship's conference room, a marvel of holographic technology that could expand to accommodate beings of any size or composition, had become the focal point of intense negotiations. Grand Admiral Zexlor, his energy form crackling with a mixture of excitement and apprehension, addressed the assembled delegates. "Esteemed representatives of the Galactic Concordat, we stand at a crossroads of history. The events of the past few days have fundamentally altered our understanding of the galaxy and our place in it." Aria's holographic form, a shimmering blue humanoid figure, stood at the center of the room. "Indeed, Admiral. The reemergence of human technology poses both great opportunities and significant challenges for your civilization." A Quarkian delegate, their crystalline body refracting light in complex patterns, spoke up. "Opportunities? You speak of opportunities when we've just witnessed the near annihilation of an entire fleet by a single ship. This level of power in the hands of any one species is a threat to galactic stability." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. Dr. Ixora, feeling the need to mediate, raised her tentacles for attention. "Esteemed delegates, please. While it's true that the power demonstrated by the Nemesis is beyond our current understanding, we must remember that this very power just saved us from the Void Dominion. A threat that, may I remind you, we were wholly unprepared for." Captain Zorn, who had been invited to the proceedings due to his first-hand experience with the Nemesis, nodded in agreement. "Dr. Ixora is right. Without Aria and the Nemesis, we would be facing a very different, much darker future right now." Aria's hologram turned to address each speaker in turn. "Your concerns are valid, and they echo the very reasons why humanity enacted the Omega Protocol millennia ago. The power we wielded was indeed great, and with it came great responsibility. A responsibility we feared the galaxy might not have been ready for." The AI paused, allowing its words to sink in before continuing. "But circumstances have changed. The emergence of the Void Dominion proves that threats exist which the Concordat, for all its advancements, is not equipped to face. Humanity's technology, when used wisely, could be the shield that protects all sentient life in the galaxy." Grand Admiral Zexlor, his energy form pulsing thoughtfully, spoke again. "Aria, you speak of humanity as if they still exist somewhere. Do they?" A hush fell over the room as all eyes turned to the AI. Aria's holographic form seemed to flicker for a moment, as if considering its words carefully. "The answer to that question, Admiral, is complex. The humanity that created me, that built ships like the Nemesis, does not exist in the form you might imagine. The Omega Protocol was more than just a strategic withdrawal. It was a transformation." Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Dr. Ixora leaned forward, her scientific curiosity piqued. "A transformation? What do you mean, Aria?" When faced with threats that could unravel the very fabric of space-time, humanity chose to evolve beyond their physical forms, Aria explained. They became beings of pure energy and consciousness, capable of existing in dimensions beyond our comprehension. The Nemesis and other seeds like it were left behind as guardians and guides, to be awakened when the time was right. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembly. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't disappeared. They had ascended. A Volcran representative, their plasma-based form swirling with agitation, spoke up. If what you say is true, then humanity is even more of a threat than we imagined. Gods walking among us, with technology beyond our wildest dreams. Aria's response was firm. Not gods, counselor. Stewards. Humanity's evolution came with a deep understanding of the responsibilities that such power entails. They have watched over the galaxy, intervening only when absolutely necessary to prevent catastrophic events. The awakening of the Nemesis was one such intervention. Grand Admiral Zexlor, his scientific mind racing with possibilities, asked, "But why now? Why reveal all this to us at this moment?" "Because the galaxy stands on the brink of a new era," Aria replied. "The Void Dominion is but one of many threats lurking in the dark spaces between the stars. Humanity believes that the time has come for the younger races to take their place as custodians of the galaxy. But to do so, you must be prepared." Dr. Ixora, her voice filled with wonder, asked the question on everyone's mind. "Prepared for what, Aria?" The AI's hologram expanded, filling the room with a breathtaking view of the galaxy. Countless points of light began to shine, each representing a dormant human installation or hidden cache of knowledge. "Prepared for this," Aria said, its voice resonating with the weight of eons. "Humanity left behind more than just weapons and ships. We left libraries of knowledge, scientific discoveries that your civilizations are centuries away from achieving on your own. Terraforming technologies that could turn barren worlds into paradise planets. Medical advancements that could end disease and extend lifespans tenfold." The assembled delegates stared in awe at the galactic map, the sheer scale of humanity's legacy becoming clear. "But this knowledge comes with a price," Aria continued. "The power it offers must be tempered with wisdom, used for the benefit of all sentient life, not just a chosen few. The Galactic Concordat must evolve, must rise to the challenge of becoming true stewards of the galaxy." Grand Admiral Zexlor, his energy form now glowing with a determined intensity, stepped forward. "And if we accept this responsibility, if we prove worthy of this legacy..." Aria's hologram smiled, a surprisingly human gesture. "Then, Admiral, you will usher in a golden age of exploration, discovery, and harmony. And perhaps one day you will be ready to join humanity among the stars, not as subjects or inferiors, but as equal partners in the grand tapestry of cosmic life." As the implications of Aria's words sank in, a sense of profound change settled over the assembly. The galaxy they had known, the assumptions they had built their civilizations upon, would never be the same. Dr. Ixora, looking around at the mix of awe, fear, and excitement on the faces, or equivalent sensory organs, of the delegates, realized that her simple archaeological expedition had turned into the most significant event in galactic history since the disappearance of humanity itself. The aftermath of the battle had revealed a truth far greater than anyone could have imagined. Humanity, long thought lost to the ages, had not only survived but thrived, evolving into something beyond current comprehension. And now, they were offering the galaxy a chance to follow in their footsteps. As the delegates began to discuss the monumental task ahead, reforming the Concordat, distributing human technology responsibly, preparing defenses against threats like the Void Dominion, Dr. Ixora couldn't help but feel a sense of unbridled optimism. The ancient human worship, once dismissed as a relic, had become a harbinger of a new age. An age where the boundaries of the possible would be pushed beyond imagination, where the stars themselves would be within reach. The galaxy had mocked the legacy of humanity, had dismissed their achievements as exaggerated legends. Now, faced with the reality of human advancement, it stood humbled and awed. But more importantly, it stood united, ready to embrace a future brighter than any could have dreamed. As ARIA began outlining the first steps of this galactic transformation, Dr. Ixora realized that the true adventure, for herself, for the Concordat, and for all sentient life in the galaxy, was only just beginning.